Susan Lieu, thanks so much for being here on Bay Area Book Festival Shortcuts.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to take that shortcut.
Ready to go. The point of these is just to let folks know a little bit more about you and get them excited for coming to your panel and your discussion that's going to be at the festival this year. As a reminder, the festival is May 31st to June 1st, downtown Berkeley. We're going to be taking over Alston Way, street fair vibes, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Let me read just a quick bio that I found on your beautiful website, by the way. I don't know who did your site, but I want notes afterwards. Um, Susan is a Vietnamese American author, activist, and performer. Her work explores intergenerational trauma, impossible beauty standards, dysfunctional families, and unresolved grief. And your debut memoir, The Manicurist's Daughter, received accolades from the New York Times, NPR Books, Elle Magazine, and the Washington Post, and is an Apple Book Pick of the Month. Congratulations on your first book.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Talk a little bit about writing. How did you come to the world of writing, and what does it mean for you, and process and all those things? Let's just dive in.
Oh my God. I mean, it was all accidental. Like,
Uh-huh.
if my family, so the premise of my work is my mother, she passed away from a botched tummy tuck when I was 11 years old.
Mhm.
She was 38. It happened in the Bay Area in San Francisco on Geary Boulevard. And after that, my family has never spoken about her or what happened to this
Mm.
day. And now it's been about 3 decades. And so you're asking, why did I write? Well, if my family could have just had a conversation. Are you okay now? How did
Right.
you feel about what happened? What did you love about her? If we could just answer that, I would have never become an artist. But because we couldn't, and because after I got married and I got a lot of pressure from my dad and aunts to have kids, I said, wait, hold on a second. How do I become a mom if I
Mhm.
never knew her myself? And that sent me on this wild goose chase to track down the negligent surgeon and his children, enlist the help of spirit channelers, go back to Vietnam several times. And every time I learned something new, I was processing it live with an audience as part of a one woman show.
Mhm.
And so to answer your question, it's like I would have never needed to do that if my family could have had closure around her death. And because we didn't, I started also to confront the adult that I was disappointed who I became. Like I was just like, wow, this is adult life. It sucks. And so concurrently with trying to find out who my mom was, I wanted to become a performer and
Mhm.
to give life to that because I was a failed stand-up comic. So it all kind of converged. And then I put on this show where I play 15 characters in 65 minutes, including my family. I take it on a 10-city national tour, and who is at the New York premiere but my future literary agent?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
From
so
Celadon?
from Stella, no, the literary agent, she's from
Oh,
LGR,
oh,
uh,
LGR. Gotcha.
living Greenberg, Roston, I think. And so she's sitting there. Thank God I don't know she's sitting there. But what happens here is I have this proof of concept with a show,
Hmm.
right? And then eventually I have a baby, March 2020, great time. And then I get the book deal the year afterwards. And for me, I've always wanted to be a multi-hyphenate storyteller. I wasn't attached to one thing like I must write a memoir or I
Hmm.
must only do theater. For me, my question is how do we grapple with having intergenerational healing when there's shame and silence in our families? How do we do this?
Hmm.
How can I do this and how can I help others do it too? And so for me, I'm a cross pollinator. If I can be in other mediums and eventually I want to be in film and TV, I'm going to go there. Because I think it's not about being siloed, but it's about how do we receive this information and
Right.
how do we transform, right? For me, I'm always saying, how do we live like we're mortal? Because if we live like we're immortal, well, we're avoidant. We don't want to face pain. We don't want to deal with stuff. And I'm sitting here going like, no, 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 no. If we can go in, I say in my book 3 times, when we feel, we heal. That's
Mm.
when we can start healing our world, is by doing it within and doing it in our family communities and then doing it in a broader way. So I never thought like, I will be a writer. I always thought it was cool. I read the book Roots when I was in high school, light
Uh-huh.
beach reading. And I was just sitting there going like, wow, the ability to know where you come from because my
Yeah.
family was so silent about the Vietnam War, about being boat people. And here I was thinking, wow, that would be so beautiful to know and to write down, not thinking that I'd actually talk about my dead mother because I wasn't allowed to.
Right. And so what I love so much of what you just said, including to feel is to heal. I love that. What was the response of family members to actually having it written down? Like, was that a mixed bag reception? Was it pretty? Yeah, talk a little bit about how it was received from family.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit like I have to talk about the book. I always have to talk about the show, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm like starting to inch into like, can we talk about it? And they're like, no. And the one I took on tour is a fifth iteration. So leading up to it, one, two, three, four, I wanted them to watch a videotaping of it, and two of the siblings were like, hard no, and one said okay, and had he was like, well, that's an emotional roller coaster. Let's go watch football, and then that was it. Um, Eventually, my sister comes to one because she's so curious, but because a psychic told her that it wasn't about me, and then she's like, huh. So it's been like a very slow moving thing because they were like, you're doing the most shameful, you're losing face for all of us. What are you doing? So, with that context, I write the book, and no one really wants to share their memories. I only have 7 memories of my mother, and
Hmm.
here, I lost her when I was 11. So I'm trying to create this whole world. And after 2 years of writing, finally, I handed it to my editor, who she edited Pachinko actually. I give it to her. She goes, "By George, you did it!" And I was like, "Who says by George?"
Right.
And then also I was like, "I did it." I was like, "Give it right back to me. Give it right back to me." And so I take it back. I edit it one more time, and then I give it to my sister because my sister is the bridge builder in the family.
Hmm.
And I was like, look, you don't have editorial rights, but if you did, if there's anything that bothers you, can you just let me know? She has 3 corrections. It's like 3 half sentences where she's like, this is not going to look good for you. It didn't hurt the plot. It wasn't a whole chapter. It wasn't a whole concept. And I was like, that's it? She's like, that's it.
Hmm.
I did not show it to my brothers because they were my disciplinarians growing up. And I feel like
Uh-huh.
if they saw it before it went to print, when there was this moment to edit it, I probably would have done something, and just so that they wouldn't be mad at me, even though like, come on, they've been mad at me forever, right? So so my sister, I was like, I remember when I sent it to her, and I get it back from her. There's like 3 dots on iMessage. She's like, I read it, and there's like 3 dots, 3 dots, 3 dots, and I was and like I'm like my stomach is flipping over. I'm like I'm so messed, I'm so screwed. Like what if like I can't publish the book? And she's like, I was like, what'd you think? She's like, it was good. It read like a long journal entry, and I was like, and. And then she's like, and that's it. And I was like, oh my God, such a relief. Like to this day, my dad hasn't read it. I remember I couldn't even call him on pub day. He had a copy of it. I had to wait a month later when it was my birthday because I have this
Hmm.
rule like you can't be mean to someone on their birthday. So I felt more confident to call him on my birthday. And I was like, "Oh, did you read it?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, he's like, "I don't read." And I was like, "Oh, do you want the audiobook?" He's like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, like there's part of a language barrier because my
Right.
dad's English is not as great as my English, and
Uh-huh.
my Vietnamese is not as good as his Vietnamese,
Hmm.
which is always this generational divide. But also, he just was not interested. Him
Hmm.
and my other brother are just not interested. And they've been, I would say, neutral. Like, they're not totally against it. And I'm not estranged. But they also are not like for it and ask me questions. I
Hmm.
remember about a year ago, my dad was like, when are you going to get a real job? Like, why don't you become a loan officer? And I was like, with my personality, you don't think I could even be a real estate agent?
Right.
But that's
So
kind
many other
of,
choices.
yeah, we're just kind of oceans apart in that way where
Yeah.
I've pivoted into the arts in the last 8 years and he's really not a part of that.
Yeah.
But I was on the cover of Seattle Magazine as one of the city's most influential people. And I sent it to him. I just sent it to him and I have like no other context. Um, and he texted back and he's like, that looks great. You
Well,
know,
there you go. That's
even though
something.
like I'm featured in there because of my book, right? Like
Right.
he so it's still family. It's still
Right.
family. And I my sister, she's hustling my book at our chocolate shop. We have
Uh-huh.
a chocolate shop in the SFO airport called Sokola Chocolatier. She's hustling my books there. You know, I think she's proud of me, but it's still
How did you
family.
come? I mean, the whole chocolate thing I wanna talk about because I saw that and I was like, how did that come to be? Um, but before we get to that, did you find the process of writing? It sounds like the family interactions as far as the book when it came out were pretty minimal, but did you find it a cathartic process, the writing of it, the sharing of it with audience members?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I was like the writing process. I was like there is like I write in my basement of my house and
Uh-huh.
it's carpet. I'm like if we could draw like one of those crime scenes where like there's like a body just like lying down, it's me, right? Like it's in front of my whiteboard where I've just so many times just I stop looking at my computer, it's nothing's happening, and I just kind of lie there. I'm like, I'm so screwed. Um, it was cathartic.
Yeah.
There, as I said, I only had 7 memories of my mom,
Mm.
and then now I have like 300 single space pages where I can't hide.
Yeah.
I can't hide. Like, okay, I do a solo show that's 65 minutes, and you see everything in broad strokes, but to be given about 300 pages, you cannot hide, which means I have to go emotional scuba diving back into these dark
Hmm.
memories that I've never really gotten to share with folks, including my family, right?
Hmm.
And so that was really hard because sometimes it was terrifying. And then also I would just be writing like thoughts, lots of thoughts,
Uh-huh.
because it's such a dark part of my life. And then now I have to make it like pithy and a page turner and really interesting and have a through line and it needs to come out. I had this crazy goal. I was like, my mom died when she was 38, so I need to publish while I'm still 38. And I basically have a month left to finish this, you know, given the publishing calendar.
Right.
It was just like, why do you have to do that to yourself, Susan? And I was like, because, you know, it's like I had to, it's like I always have to raise the stakes for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Um, but it was really cathartic because I worked with a book doctor,
Hmm.
and so that's not a ghostwriter. It's someone who just supports you and then lets you cry a lot and you scream,
Uh-huh.
I didn't meet the deadline. And then eventually they like do some fine tune editing with you. That's her role. And she was just able to hold space. And I would just be like, oh, I didn't write what you wanted me to, but here, look at this.
Uh-huh.
And then she would look at it and she would highlight a couple of places, be like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. Like, tell me more. And I feel like having a support team like that to help me understand how to stitch it together was helpful since I don't have any creative writing experience, right? I don't have an MFA, I have an MBA. Like, why did I do either, right? Like, it makes no sense. But she was able to help guide me and help me see things and then direct me so that eventually I had so much content. I feel like I wrote about 1,000 pages for the
Hmm.
300. And over time, I was able to morph it together, and structure was awfully hard. I didn't know how it was like the question's always like, is it chronological? Or is it, or when are you going to choose to time travel and how? You know, and you're like, I don't know. And it was my agent who was like, hey, you talk about the 6 meanings of Ma in the beginning. What would that look like if that was a structure of the book? And I sat there in front of my whiteboard and my post-it notes and I stared and stared. I was like, and I had like a lot of moving and like a lot of, and then like a lot of sitting and staring. And then eventually it came.
Hmm.
And I hate this. I hate this. My editor would be like, you don't know what the story about is until you get to the end. And I'm like, what are you talking? She was, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, Deb. And she'd be like, watch your show. Watch 140 pounds. Just follow the order of the show. And then I would try that. And it didn't feel right. Like something wasn't
Different
working with
flow.
this medium.
Yeah.
And then when I finally get to the end and I show her that, she was like, the end. The end is fantastic. Yes, yes, yes. And I was like, great. And I was like, how much of the rest of the book can I use? And she's like, we don't like to think in percentages here. And I was like, cool, but if you did, she's like 85. I was like, ah, my God, you know. So it was just like a lot of like, I think so much of the time I was doing ramp up of trying to understand what is important and why, but without having that support of the family to reinforce. I felt like it was a lot of blind feeling around, and thank goodness I had my support team. But it felt so good to get this out there. I went on tour for my hardcover last year. I think I met 3,000 readers on the road. I planned 30 events myself because that's
Wow.
how we D-list authors do it, is we have to do it ourselves, right? And it was just like, God, that's like it's I am an Aries ox, a man. I'm ego. I love the attention. I love the but it reminds me that it isn't just about me,
Yeah.
that my story can resonate for them, can help them shift and dislodge trauma in their bodies, help them have conversations in their lives that they don't want to regret not having, right?
Hmm.
If I can inspire them to do that, I did my job.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and imagine write down their own stories, right? To like go on their own journeys of processing and yeah.
yeah, I mean, I always get it like, how do I talk to family if they don't want to talk? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, we gotta. I was like, I should do a webinar.
Maybe that's next. I know part of your work too is, I mean, you're in the activist community as well, and I know you joined Consumer Watchdog
Yeah.
and have been doing some work around medical malpractice. Can you talk a little bit about the work you've been doing there?
Yeah. So when my mom suddenly died, the doctor was not going to give our family any money because he didn't have medical malpractice insurance.
Hmm.
And even if he could, the max payout we would get was $250,000, which is the same amount it's been since 1975. And
Wow.
she passed when it was 1996. So there was no adjustment to inflation. And what that does on a systematic level is it means lawyers have little incentive to represent you because they're not going to get paid that much for it. And bad apple doctors, okay, there's a penalty, but it's not a big enough penalty for them to really change their ways, right? Like
Right.
it's this number that if you don't have it increased to inflation, which many states in America don't even have a cap, then what are we incentivizing, and who is winning and who is losing?
Hmm.
Basically, low income people are losing. So when I found this all out, I was a kid, so I didn't know it then. But when I was in grad school, when I was in business school at Yale, I was sitting there. I was like, my God, how, just because you're a lobbying group, you can just decide the fate of millions of other people.
Hmm.
And most of these people don't even realize that this is an issue until they're in the situation,
Right.
right? You don't like, hey, Colorado, do you know what your medical malpractice cap is? Probably not, right?
Right.
So, I had learned about Consumer Watchdog, and they said, "Hey, will you share your story with us?" And so I've been on their podcasts, video testimonials. I went to California Medical Board meetings, which I never thought I
Uh-huh.
would go to testify and talk about. You guys are hurting people,
Hmm.
and it was so amazing. In 2022, Governor Newsom signed AB 35, Fairness Patient Act, where it is now going to adjust to inflation.
That's
So
amazing.
over a couple more years, it'll adjust to 1.1 or 1.2 million,
Wow.
which is it's not huge, but you know what? It's better than 250, right?
Well, it's better than staying the same since 1975.
You know
Like,
what I mean? Like
yeah,
price of eggs hashtag, right?
right. Right. So are you still going to be doing that work in other states? Are you doing that work in
That's
Washington at the
that's a
moment, or
great idea. Maybe I should do that.
just take them both on the road? Just take them both on the road.
Well,
One person shows in state capitals
you
around the
know,
nation.
I mean, I think the American healthcare system is not a sexy thing to think about. Like
Yeah.
it's not that interesting when you're in your 20s and totally healthy, and you don't realize what the whole hubbub about healthcare is all about until your parents age, or you run into a situation where you're really screwed over. And so I think that's a brilliant idea, actually. Thanks for the
There we
tip.
go.
I think for me right now, as a writer, it's like you got to hustle.
Yeah.
And I've been hustling to put on my paperback tour, which ends at the Bay Area Book Festival, and trying to figure out my other life of how I make money and how I sustain myself as an artist, which includes speaking. So I think it's such a juggle of stuff. Like if we were living in Ireland and there was this like basic universal income for artists, they only gave it to like 2,000 people, I think. But like if they have this so that I don't have to always be applying for grants and being in the cycle of this hustling, and I can actually do my work. That would be
Yeah.
great. But I'm not. I'm not. Like I don't have my Starburst. I've been fantasizing about the Starburst sticker of like 1 million books sold. And so many times I wake up and measure myself to that, like, really? It's still like, does anybody care? I don't know if there's other writers out there that just get really mopey real fast, but I do.
Oh,
Because,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
because you're
Yeah.
just like, you want to make it, and then the true numbers are is like very few make it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like sitting here going like, oh, gotta do all this other hustling.
You know what though? It's so true that very few make it, and I think that the false expectations come at us from so many different angles, whether it's MFA programs or other writers that we're able to break through. But the point of the work, in my opinion, is what you're doing, which is you're connecting with people, you're sharing your story so that other people can dive into their own
Yeah.
stories. And it's about that, it's about building community, building connections. And it's, like you've created this network of people across the nation through
Yeah.
your tour and through your one person show that is really powerful. And
Yeah.
so it's like ways, it resonates with people in ways that you can't control, that you can't predict. And I think that's part of the beauty of it is the letting go that it necessitates and the trust in your work. Like your work's amazing, so it transcends us on a personal level.
Totally. I mean, I,
Yeah.
I just came from a speaking gig today, and this like young Asian man in his 20s comes up to me because I talk about body shaming, and I talk about judgment from your elders, and like how terrifying it is to actually say that you have feelings in front of them. And so he comes up to me, and he's like explaining to me his name, his Chinese name, his English name, and he's just spinning around in circles, and I can start to see him shuddering, and I'm like,
Mm,
"Are you okay?" And he's like, "I don't know why I'm saying any of this."
mm,
And I was like, he's like, "But what you said today just it rings really deeply true, and I don't know what it is." I'm sitting here and I'm like, "Oh yes, this is right where I want my reader." Like where
yeah.
there's something that's resonating, they don't even know what it is. And my work is something hopefully for them to reflect on a deeper level. And so I go, "Hey bro, can I give you a hug?" I give him this hug, right? I hug so many strangers. I hug strangers for a living. And he's like shuddering, and I'm like, I was like, "Just email me after you're done, okay?" And I'm sitting here going like, "Wow, all I need to do is tell my story."
Yeah.
And that creates a portal for someone else to go through a beautiful journey.
Yeah.
What a blessed life I get to live.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly is. And your book's amazing, and we're so excited to have you at the festival. I didn't realize it's the last event in your tour.
You're special to me.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey. June 1st, you'll be at the Bay Area Book Festival. Susan Lieu,
Yeah.
so
And
excited to have
and
you
I'm
there.
I'm from the Bay Area.
And you're from the Bay,
Our
so
nail
it's a
salon.
homecoming.
Yeah, it's homecoming. I'm the princess. Our first nail salon was in Albany. It's
Oh,
called
wow.
Susan's Nails next to Albany Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And if you go, I think it's Lisa's Nails now, and they use the same S and A from our original sign. So
Nice.
I'm from the Bay Area, and I'm really happy to come back.
Well, we're so excited to have you. It's been lovely talking to you. I feel like I could talk to you for a couple more hours, but
Okay.
folks got to come to the festival June 1st, and it's going to be an amazing, amazing conversation moderated by Dorothy Lazard. So, full program for folks is going up on April 5th. So this Saturday, we're going to be announcing the full program for the entire festival. So stay tuned and hope you can make it to see Susan June 1st. Hey,
Hey, see you soon. Bye.
bye.